Thank you, Lori. A woman is in stable condition this afternoon after surviving a stabbing near Bramalea City Centre Mall in Brampton earlier this morning. Peel Regional Police say the victim was in a car when the attack happened. They also say that she might not have survived if several witnesses hadn't intervened. Here is Constable Thomas Rattan.
There were witnesses on the scene that actually affected her safety. They pulled her from the vehicle and pulled her to safety. If it weren't for them, then she quite possibly would be dead now.
The incident highlights the importance of helping someone out, but it also raises questions about the rights of Good Samaritans. Here to talk more about the considerations involved in helping someone in need is Toronto lawyer Karen McArthur. She's here with me in studio. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for coming in.
You're welcome.
So tell me your thoughts on the actions of those witnesses who police are now crediting for saving this woman's life.
I think they are commendable actions, and we should be holding a parade for them in Brampton or Bramalea Centre. We live in a society where far too often it's easy just to turn and walk away. And here was a group of people bright and early this morning that went right to it and saved this woman's life. Commendable. And they were Good Samaritans. In Ontario, they're protected by what's called the Good Samaritans Act. If they gave her assistance and perhaps didn't do it as capably as a doctor might have, they still would be protected from lawsuits. That's what the Good Samaritan Act is all about. So if you want to help someone that's in need and in distress, you don't have to be afraid that you might be sued by virtue of this act.
Well, I think that's what a lot of people wonder, because they think my heart wants to help, but my skill set might not be up to the needs of the situation. So we should still
you can still help. You can be
instincts.
You are protected. This legislation arose or developed out of our common law. This notion that we live in this just and moral society, and that we have an obligation to be each keeper for each other, and to be on the lookout for each other. And like I said, I think today's day and age, we're far too often just walking away. And so what this group of people did this morning is phenomenal.
What, as a lawyer, would you advise people, though, maybe are there still sort of caveats and things that we should be careful of?
Well, one, I think everybody ports a computer, an iPhone, or some type of a recording device. So if at all possible, and if there are other people present, have them be witnesses to what you're doing and maybe record it. That will help with the preservation of evidence. It will help with the preservation of the evidence that you might have to give in a court proceeding. It will help the police forensically. You can do that. You can work as a team in tandem, and make sure that you call 911 too, because you do have your phone there with you.
So if the Good Samaritan Act exists and is so in favor of the passersby and their rights, why do you think more people don't step in and help in situations like this? It's still more rare than it is common practice.
Fear, and that this notion that it's not my problem. Let somebody else step up to the plate. So what these people did this morning is something that we as a society have to embrace and say, let's get more of us to pull together and recognize that we are each other's keeper, and we all have an obligation to be the eyes and the ears and the helping hands in our society. It's not simply for the paramedics, the ambulance attendants, and the police. We have an obligation to do that, especially if we want to keep our tax dollars low. Let's get out there and help each other live peaceably.
And I guess that's interesting, just to sort of reiterate the point you've made, is that there is protection, legal protection on the books in the event that we do that. I think people maybe aren't clear about that.
You're safe from civil suit. I mean, if you do something that's grossly negligent, you might not be, but that's such a far off measure. You're not going to get that with what the people did, for example, this morning, or if you give somebody the Heimlich maneuver, or if you have to give cardiac arrest measures. You're protected. You jump in there and you help someone. When you try to save a drowning child, same thing, the Good Samaritan Act. You do what you can in the circumstances, you will be protected by the law.
So what lessons do you think people can learn from what happened today, the witnesses who intervened?
That they count. They stood up and they counted. And someone is alive because of them.
All right. Thank you so much for coming in to talk to us about
welcome.
this. That's Karen McArthur. She's a Toronto lawyer speaking to us about Good Samaritans and their rights.